What happens when you judge a person by what they wear instead of who they are? When you think money makes you better, but forget who actually holds the keys to everything you stand on. Tonight's story isn't just about arrogance. It's about what happens when karma shows up wearing work boots and driving a beat-up truck. A luxury hotel, a snobby front desk manager, and a so-called nobody in greasy overalls who walks in and gets humiliated. But what no one knew was that this man wasn't just here to check in. He was here to take over. And by the end of the day, the ones doing the judging would be the ones begging for mercy. So let me ask you, do you think wealth is something you see? Or something you own, quietly, powerfully behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around, because what happens next will leave your jaw on the floor. The Royal Verona Hotel was the kind of place that whispered money even in silence. Tall marble columns, gold-plated elevators, doormen in white gloves. Everything polished. Everything perfect. It didn't scream luxury. It oozed it, slow and intentional, like it knew it didn't need to try. The front lobby stretched like a cathedral, with floors so clean you could see your reflection in them. Everyone inside looked like they belonged on magazine covers or corporate boards. Every guest that walked through the front door wore power like a second skin, except for the man who stepped in at exactly 12:07 p.m. on a Tuesday. His name was James Walker, and he didn't look like he belonged here. He didn't walk in wearing a $1,000 suit. He wasn't flanked by assistants or bellboys. He wasn't holding an iced Americano in one hand and a Bluetooth earpiece in the other. He walked in alone, boots scuffed, wearing a faded blue work jacket, a baseball cap tucked under his arm, and hands that looked like they'd been tightening bolts and lifting steel for 40 years straight. But he walked in like he had every right to be there, like he knew exactly where he was going, which, ironically, is what made the man behind the front desk pause. Leon, manager of the Royal Verona's front desk. Slick hair, perfect tie, cologne that cost more than most people's rent. He didn't just run the front of house. He thought he was the house. Leon saw James Walker walk through those glass doors, and in less than 3 seconds, made up his mind. Old, working class, probably lost, here by accident. Leon watched him approach with a polite smile stretched so thin it was practically invisible. "Can I help you, sir?" James set his small leather bag down next to the counter. "Yes, reservation under the name Walker." Leon blinked. He smiled a little more this time, but only because he found it funny. "A reservation here?" "That's right." Leon tapped at the keyboard with one hand and gestured vaguely with the other. "This is the Royal Verona. Our suites start at $2,100 a night." James nodded. "I know." Leon narrowed his eyes, still tapping. "Company card?" "No." He stopped typing. "You paying cash?" "Nope." Leon tilted his head slightly, scanning James again. His jacket, his boots, his calloused hands. "You sure you're in the right place?" "I'm sure." Leon looked around like he was on a hidden camera show. "You're here alone? Is that a problem?" Leon laughed lightly, but there was a sting in it. "We just don't usually get guests in workwear." James raised an eyebrow. Didn't know there was a dress code for checking in. Leon glanced around, hoping one of the bellhops would see this and chuckle along. No one did. "Okay, Mr. Walker," Leon said, fingers returning to the keyboard. "Let's see what we've got." He typed the name in, then stopped. The screen blinked once, then again. There it was. The name, James Walker. The room, Presidential Penthouse Suite. The note flagged, Priority Guest. Alert GM upon arrival. Leon blinked again, his fingers frozen over the keys. James leaned forward slightly. "Something wrong?" Leon straightened. "No, just surprised." James said nothing. Leon's mouth moved like it wanted to form a sentence, but hadn't figured one out yet. "It says you're in the penthouse suite." "Correct. There's a note from corporate." Says to alert the general manager when you arrive. James nodded once. You gonna do that? Leon cleared his throat. Of course. I'll get right on it. But his smile was gone now. And so was the condescension. Except the damage had already been done. The smirks. The tone. The assumptions. Everyone at the counter saw it. The young couple behind James looked uncomfortable. A bellhop paused mid-step to listen. The assistant manager in the corner didn't speak, but she was definitely watching now. Leon reached for the phone. I'll just call the GM. No rush, James said. But before you do that, he looked Leon in the eyes, steady calm. You sure you want to check me in after the way you just spoke to me? Leon's face twitched. I apologize if anything came off as rude. Didn't come off as rude, James replied. It came off exactly how you meant it. Leon said nothing. James continued. You made a judgment. I get it. Happens a lot. But what I don't get, what I can't let slide, is someone like you thinking they get to decide who deserves respect and who doesn't based on a pair of boots. Leon gave a stiff smile. Again, sir, I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding, James said. The tone wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was just final, like a door that had quietly clicked shut. Leon lowered his eyes, realizing there was no coming back. James picked up his phone and made one call. He didn't say much. Just, tell him I'm downstairs. Then he hung up. For a moment, no one moved. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. A few minutes later, the elevator opened, and out stepped the general manager. Suit perfectly pressed. Smile professional. Eyes scanning the room until they landed on James Walker. Then he walked right past Leon, extended both hands, and said, Mr. Walker, welcome. We've been expecting you. Leon's face went pale. I hope my team has treated you well so far, the GM added, glancing briefly at Leon, but not stopping. James looked at Leon, then looked back at the GM. We'll talk about that upstairs. The GM nodded. Of course. Right this way. As they walked toward the elevator, James turned back one last time. Not with anger. Just a quiet, sharp line that cut through the air. You never know who you're talking to. Leon didn't say a word. He couldn't, because in that moment, everyone in the lobby knew. He just tried to humiliate the wrong man. And it was far from over. The elevator doors closed with a soft whisper. Upstairs, James Walker and the general manager ascended in silence. The manager's name was Alan Fields. Polished, composed, but even he looked just a little nervous. You were supposed to check in privately, Alan said. I know, James replied. I wanted to see how your staff treats people they don't think matter. Alan's throat moved as he swallowed. I assume you got your answer. James didn't respond. Downstairs, Leon stood still behind the desk, hands gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping him upright. He wasn't sure what just happened, but everyone around him was. No one laughed now. No one smiled. Even the bellhops kept their distance. He pulled out his phone and opened the internal messaging system. His screen lit up. New alert from corporate HQ. Mr. James Walker is the new principal owner of Verona Holdings. All staff are to provide VIP treatment. Refer to executive onboarding protocol. Leon stared at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. Owner. Not guest. Not investor. Owner. He read it twice. 3 times. His stomach dropped like the elevator just collapsed beneath him. He hadn't just insulted a rich man. He'd insulted the man who now owned everything around him. Every chandelier. Every floor tile. Every paycheck. Including his. Upstairs, the elevator dinged. The penthouse floor looked more like a private gallery than the hotel suite. Gold accents. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls. A view of the entire Manhattan skyline. It felt like standing above the world. James stepped out like it was just another Tuesday. Alan followed. I took the liberty of stocking the bar and clearing the schedule for the afternoon. You've got full privacy, no interruptions. I appreciate that, James said. Alan paused before asking, what would you like us to do about the man downstairs? James walked toward the window. The city stretched beneath him like a map. He could see everything. And he remembered when he used to build it. Not direct it. Not own it. Build it. He turned back to Alan. I want you to keep him there. Excuse me. Don't fire him. Not yet. Alan blinked. May I ask why? Because some lessons stick better when you learn them slowly. Back in the lobby, Leon's phone buzzed again. It was a direct message from Alan. Do not leave the desk. Do not speak unless spoken to. Mr. Walker has requested your presence later. Leon's chest tightened. He looked around. A guest approached the counter. Young woman. Business attire. Professional energy. Excuse me, she said. I just wanted to say. I saw what you did earlier. To that man. Leon didn't respond. You might want to work on that attitude, she added, because you never know who's watching. She walked away before he could form a sentence. A few feet behind her, one of the bellhops approached slowly. Dude, he whispered. That guy you tried to kick out. Leon didn't look up. He just bought the place. I heard it from one of the execs. Leon finally looked at him. That's not possible. The bellhop raised his brows. Then why is Alan personally walking him through the penthouse? Leon said nothing. His fingers started shaking. At 2:17 p.m., Alan returned to the lobby. His expression was neutral but firm. Mr. Walker would like a word. Leon straightened his jacket and followed, keeping pace behind Alan like a child being sent to the principal's office. He expected to be led into a conference room. Instead, Alan brought him back upstairs, to the penthouse. The doors opened again. James was sitting on the balcony, overlooking the skyline, drink in hand. Alan nodded. He's here. James didn't turn around. Thanks, Alan. Give us the room. Alan left without a word. Leon stepped forward, silent. James finally spoke. You know what the funny thing is? Leon didn't answer. I started in this city laying foundation, wearing a hard hat and steel toes. 12 hours a day. No AC. No desk. Just sweat and grit. He stood up and turned. Everything you're standing on, I helped build. The bones of this hotel. That concrete. I poured some of it myself, before it ever looked like this. Leon's throat felt dry. James stepped closer. And you thought a man with worn boots didn't belong. Leon tried to speak. Mr. Walker, I didn't know who you were. That's the problem. James cut in. You needed to know who I was to treat me like a person. I was just doing my job. No, you weren't. You were doing your judgment. Big difference. Leon's mouth opened, but no words came out. James gestured around the suite. All of this. This came after. But it wasn't always mine. I earned it. Quietly. Patiently. While men like you look down on men like me. Leon's voice cracked. I'm sorry. James tilted his head. No, you're not. You're scared. Leon looked at the floor. James studied him for a long moment. I'm not going to fire you. Leon looked up in surprise. You're not? No. I don't want you running off to another hotel, starting fresh like this never happened. I want you here. Right here. Where every day you'll remember the day you tried to humiliate the wrong man. Leon's face flushed. You'll keep your job. But from now on, you report directly to Alan. And any complaints? Come straight to me. Leon nodded stiffly. James turned away and sat back down. That's all. Leon walked out, shoulders slumped, pride shattered. And that was the real punishment. No yelling, no firing, just the weight of knowing he'd been seen. Seen for who he truly was when no one was watching. And that's the kind of lesson you don't forget. Leon returned to the lobby, head down, face tight. Everyone could see something had shifted. Even those who hadn't witnessed the scene knew. He looked different now. Not polished. Not proud. Just exposed. But still, he told himself, it's not over. He'd been humiliated, yes. He'd been lectured, absolutely. But deep down, he believed this would pass. People forget. Time moves on. He'd be careful, lay low, smile more. Eventually, Mr. Walker would move on to something else. This would blow over. Except it didn't. That evening, while Leon was still on shift, something unexpected happened. A black car pulled up to the valet. Out stepped a woman in a designer pantsuit. Sharp, elegant, high-status energy all over her. She walked straight to the front desk and asked calmly, "Can I speak to whoever was managing this lobby around noon today?" Leon stepped forward. "That would be me, ma'am." She didn't smile. "I represent the Walker Foundation." Leon blinked. "The what?" She placed a sleek, black folder on the counter. "In case you weren't aware, Mr. Walker is more than just your new owner. He's also the founder of one of the most powerful private equity firms on the East Coast. And I'm here because your behavior earlier today reflects on his brand." Leon swallowed. "I already spoke to Mr. Walker." "I know," she cut in. "But this isn't about you and him anymore. It's about company culture." Leon glanced around the lobby. A few guests were watching. Staff paused mid-task. The tension had returned. I'd apologized. "You did," she said. "But that apology wasn't about learning. It was about survival." Leon didn't know what to say, so he said the only thing he could. "What happens now?" The woman tapped the folder. "Effective immediately, Mr. Walker has ordered a full internal audit of all staff interactions, past and present, starting with guest reviews, complaint logs, and employee interviews." Leon's face turned pale. "Wait, this isn't just about me." "No," she said plainly. "It's about every time a guest like Mr. Walker walked through that door and was judged, dismissed, or turned away because someone decided they didn't look the part." Leon stepped back from the desk. "But I'm not the only one. You were the loudest." That hit like a punch. She turned to leave, but then paused and said one more thing. "For what it's worth, you weren't wrong about one thing." Leon looked up. "This is the Royal Verona, and not everyone belongs here." She let that hang in the air for a second, but it turns out you might be one of them. Then she walked away. Leon stood in silence, his body rigid. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist anymore. This was systemic, and now his name was attached to it. The next morning, things escalated further. An anonymous video appeared online. A short, 2-minute clip, grainy hotel security footage, showing Leon speaking to James Walker at the front desk the day before. It captured everything. The smirk, the comment about room prices, the assumption that Walker didn't belong, and that final line, "Try the Midtown Express down the block." Within hours, the clip went viral. Hotel manager humiliates elderly man. Regrets it instantly. Arrogant staff member tries to kick out guest. Turns out he owns the hotel. This is why you never judge a book by its cover. The internet ate it up. Hundreds of thousands of views. Comments flooded in. "Bro judged the wrong grandpa. This is what quiet money looks like." That smile at the end. Chills. And then came the worst part. People started digging. Old Yelp reviews. Past guest complaints. Screenshots of Leon brushing off clients who didn't look like they could afford it. It painted a pattern. A culture. One he'd never noticed until it turned on him. By that afternoon, a full internal email was sent to all Verona hotel staff. Subject: public incident. Immediate PR action required. All employees are reminded that guest treatment reflects company values. Management is reviewing all guest-facing interactions. Staff may be temporarily reassigned during the investigation. Leon read it 3 times. His name wasn't on it, but everyone knew. Even worse, he got a call. Not from Alan. Not from HR. From corporate. The voice on the other end was cold. "Report to our Midtown office tomorrow morning. Bring everything tied to your employment record." He hung up, leaned on the counter, and finally realized this wasn't just about a mistake. It was a collapse. Back in the penthouse, James Walker sipped his coffee and stared out over Manhattan. Alan sat across from him. "Media wants a statement," Alan said. "No comment," James replied. "You sure? You've got the public on your side. Everyone's watching." "I didn't do it to be seen." "Then why?" James looked out the window. "I've been judged my whole life. By people in suits. People behind desks. People who never built anything with their hands." He turned back. "I don't need revenge. I just want the next person who gets looked down on to be looked at twice." Alan nodded. You think he'll learn? James took another sip. He won't have a choice. By Friday morning, the Royal Verona Hotel wasn't just trending. It was under full-blown scrutiny. The video had passed 1 million views. Dozens of hospitality influencers, business coaches, and even TV personalities were reposting the clip. Not because it was funny, but because it exposed something real. Classism, arrogance, quiet power versus loud ego. And in the middle of it all was a man named James Walker. Except now, people were starting to ask, who exactly is James Walker? Because the story didn't stop at man owns hotel. No, it went deeper. That afternoon, Forbes dropped an article. The mystery owner of Verona Holdings, James Walker, former construction worker turned real estate powerhouse. The headline exploded. Built buildings for 30 years. Bought them for the next 10. Owns 3 luxury hotels, 2 resorts, and a silent stake in a private jet company. Estimated net worth, $410 million. And just like that, the man who'd walked in wearing boots and denim was now being called the quiet billionaire, the blue-collar boss, the most humble owner in hospitality. Every major media outlet was trying to land an interview. CNN, Bloomberg, Business Insider. But James Walker declined every one, until a local podcast, run by 2 young entrepreneurs, asked casually, if you ever want to talk about how to build something from the ground up, our mic's always open. To everyone's shock, he said yes. The episode went live that weekend, and in it, James told everything. Not for fame, not to go viral, but because he wanted young people to hear it from someone who'd lived both sides of success. I spent most of my life dirty, he said. Not broke, not poor, just working. My hands built things. My back hurt every night. I paid bills and kept my head down. One of the hosts asked, when did that change? James answered calmly, when I realized the world doesn't hand respect to people who earn it the hard way. You have to take it, quietly, strategically, and without warning. The host leaned in. So that day at the Verona, was that planned? James smiled. I didn't walk in to test anyone. I walked in to check on my newest asset. But when he looked me in the eye and assumed I didn't belong, that told me everything I needed to know about how the place was being run. And what did you do? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't flex a title. I just let the system reveal itself. The clip of that answer was reposted across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Millions watched. It wasn't just a twist anymore. It was a movement. Meanwhile, back at the Royal Verona, Leon was asked to report to the executive suite for a final meeting. He showed up in his best suit. Fresh haircut. Shoes polished. Voice rehearsed. He thought maybe, just maybe, he could recover some dignity. But when the doors opened and James Walker sat alone at the long conference table, Leon knew. There was no saving face. They didn't shake hands. They didn't make small talk. James just looked at him. You know what I realized? He asked. Leon said nothing. James continued. You've probably done this before. Not just to me, but to others. People without the look. The ones you decided weren't worth your respect. Leon tried to respond. It was never personal. It's always personal when you make someone feel small. James stood up, walked to the window, then turned around. You'll get your final check. No reference. No recommendation. Leon looked at the floor. James walked past him, paused at the door. Next time you look down on someone. He opened the door. Make sure they're not looking back from above. He left. And just like that, the man who once controlled the lobby couldn't even keep a foot in the building. The next day, Leon's name was all over social media. Not because he posted. Not because someone tagged him, but because the internet had found him. Screenshots from LinkedIn. A few old tweets he thought no one saw. A comment he left on a guest forum 2 years ago that said, not everyone deserves VIP treatment. You can smell broke from a mile away. Now that quote was everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok. People were stitching his old words with the video of him trying to kick out the man who owned the hotel. The meme format wrote itself. One post had over 2 million likes in 24 hours. This you attached Leon's quote plus James Walker's video. You tried to flex on the owner in work boots. There was no way to recover. By Monday, Leon's LinkedIn profile was deleted. His Instagram went private, but it was too late. A well-known hospitality blog published a piece titled, "When Ego Meets Reality, the Front Desk Manager Who Judged the Boss." It went viral. One paragraph stood out. In an industry that claims to value guests above all, it's telling when a man who literally built the bones of the building gets dismissed because of his boots. James Walker didn't just buy a hotel. He bought the system that judged him and rewrote the rules. The story sparked conversations everywhere. Discrimination in customer service. How quiet wealth moves differently. Why kindness isn't optional. By Tuesday, major hotels across the country issued internal memos about professionalism and bias. Leon didn't just get fired. He became a case study. The video was now being used in hospitality training courses under the label, "The Cost of Assumption." And while Leon's name was fading, James Walker's was rising. Across the country, the narrative flipped. Business magazines stopped calling him a quiet owner and started calling him something else. The man who brought respect back to the front door. People loved it. Not because he shouted, not because he demanded anything, but because he didn't need to. He let the world do the talking. He let karma do the work. When asked if he considered doing a speaking tour, James politely declined. But he said this, "I don't care about claps. I care about what people do when they think no one important is watching." That line hit harder than any keynote ever could. Back at the Royal Verona, everything changed. The lobby got quieter, more polite, more humble, not out of fear, but because people remembered. James didn't come back to the front desk. He didn't need to. His name was now in the foundation of the building. His presence was in every corner. A silent reminder. You never know who's walking in. 6 months passed. The Royal Verona Hotel was no longer just a 5-star destination. It was now a symbol of how fast judgment can backfire, of how wrong people can be when they let status blind them. Guests came not just for the rooms, but for the story. Is this the place where the manager tried to kick out the owner? Where's the front desk from the video? Did the guy in boots really build this place? The answer was yes. James Walker still owned it, still walked the halls sometimes, quiet as ever. But Leon was gone. No job, no social media, no more second chances. He tried to land interviews at other hotels, but his name came up every time HR ran a quick search. The video, the memes, the articles. It never went away. He changed cities, even changed his last name, but the shadow followed him. Because some mistakes don't fade. Some get carved into the internet and into people's memories. And the worst part? He never even got to apologize properly. Not because he wasn't sorry, but because the man he tried to humiliate never came back down to his level. Meanwhile, James Walker's name only grew. Not on magazine covers, not on flashy lists, but in the conversations that mattered. Young entrepreneurs told his story. Quiet workers found confidence in it. People who'd been overlooked, dismissed, disrespected, they all saw themselves in him. Because he didn't raise his voice. He didn't post a rant. He didn't try to destroy anyone. He let life do the talking. One morning, during a leadership seminar, a young hotel trainee asked, "Mr. Walker, what do you want your legacy to be?" James thought for a moment. Then he said, "I don't need a legacy. I just want the next guy in boots to be treated with respect before anyone knows his name." That was it. No drama. No revenge. Just quiet power. And unforgettable justice. Final message. Never judge a person by what they wear. Power isn't always loud. And sometimes, the quietest people in the room own the building.